topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to another Ask the Experts, our TV and radio show. We have got a great show for you this morning. I got to tell you, there's certain categories that you have to make sure that your expert is the creme de la creme, because it's an area that trust is so important. And we have been so blessed to have our next expert as part of our show. He does 2 shows a month with us. Let me introduce you now to Ray Ferrara of Provise Wealth Management. We're going to be talking about money today. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Steve, and happy Monday for sure.
Yes, I know. And, I just want to let everyone know that we are opening up our new market in Orlando next week. So you'll be able to hear experts in the Orlando area. So we're in Tampa, Orlando, and South Florida, among others. So Ray, listen, it's like not month, but every week we are getting new viewers. People are finding us for the first time. Tell people about yourself and your company.
Sure, Steve. I've been in the business for longer than I can count, which means there isn't much I haven't seen. But Provise Management Group is a financial planning firm with offices in Clearwater and Tampa. We're serving about 1,200 families scattered over about 34 states, and managing about $1.6 billion on behalf of those customers. And we look at ourselves as a financial planning firm, although we do a lot of investment management. But we look at investment management as a subset of the overall financial plan, not the reason to give the advice in the first place. If you know what the plan is, it's much easier and you can do a better job of investing the money than if you're just doing it in a haphazard way. Too many people are out there just trying to gather assets without really helping with the planning aspect.
Ray, it seems every day, we just talked about it right before we went on the air, we get a lot of bad news. It seems like, is it different now? Are people's mindsets different now who come to you?
Well, I don't know if their mindset is different, but obviously we've got different problems today than we had, say, pre-pandemic, or even since the pandemic, for that matter. A lot of folks come to see us, and I say to them, if you don't think our clients didn't lose money last year when the NASDAQ was down 35%, the S&P 500 was down 20%, and bonds were down 13%, you're wrong. Why are you here? And the most common answer we get is, the person I'm working with doesn't return phone calls, doesn't seem to have any answer, doesn't want to talk to me because of the bad news from last year. And one of the things that we emphasize is constant communication with our clients and friends. As a matter of fact, Steve, we do a little bulletin called the Provise Perspectives twice a month that we send out complimentary to anyone who would like to have a copy, with our thoughts on the economy, planning ideas, what's happening in Congress, Certainly right now, our thoughts on the banking industry, and as well as the squabble in Washington regarding the debt ceiling and cutting of costs. So anybody who would like a copy of that, all they have to do is call our number 727-441-9022, and we would be more than happy to add them to the email list.
Well, let's get started with the show. We got a text from Jennifer in Bradenton. She said, I saw a TV show Sunday morning that seemed to have the perfect product. Oh, that scares me right there, Ray, which was an annuity that invests into the market and can never go down. Is this for real? If so, why should I put all my investments into it?
Well, first of all, I would never advise any client to put all of their money into any one investment. So we'll leave that much of it at that. The key to successful investing is to have diversification. The annuity to which you're probably referring is what's known as an equity indexed annuity, and it does have an underlying guarantee that if the market declines in value, that your portfolio will or not decline in value. However, as a trade-off to that, these products limit the upside possibilities that occur. They have what I refer to as shadow plans within the plan. They are very complicated. And the biggest reason that people need to be careful in using these products, and in the right place with the right person, they can be helpful. But unfortunately, they have very long surrender charges. It's not unusual for them to be 10 years or more of surrender charges. And the reason those surrender charges are there is because people make very big commissions off of you putting the money in there and locking it up for a 10-year period or longer. So my advice to anyone who is looking to obtain an annuity, we prefer annuities that do not have surrender charges greater than 5 years, 7 at the absolute outside. And as we always say, when you're working with someone on a commission basis, as opposed to us where you work on a fee basis, you should get in writing exactly what the length of the surrender charges are on letterhead from the agent selling the plan, and they should tell you in writing exactly what their compensation is for selling the plan. And I think you'll be astounded at how much money they make when you put your money in.
Well, I knew that made me sound a little bit too good to be true. Last week, I guess it was last Friday, some pretty powerful employment numbers showed. Productivity was down, but wages were up. What do you feel like the Feds are going to do with all this data now?
Well, the Fed is obviously befuddled by having raised interest rates now by 5%, 500 basis points in the course of 1 year. And it was fully their anticipation that raising interest rates would slow down the economy, which it has as the year has gone by, and likely will as we go through the rest of this year. But they also expected part of that slowdown to occur in hiring. And that has not happened. The hiring numbers have continued to be not only stronger than anticipated, very strong given how quickly interest rates have gone up. This past Friday, it was anticipated that there would be 180,000 new jobs created. And in fact, it was much closer to 240,000. And most of those jobs were not government jobs. They were private sector jobs, which is a positive sign. It's fair to say that both the both the March and February numbers were reduced slightly from what they originally were. But even then, those numbers were very robust. There are still a lot more jobs available to be filled than there are people looking for jobs at the moment. And as long as that happens, we would anticipate that the numbers of employment will continue to go up. And Steve, when we work with a lot of business owners and key executives with major corporations, and while they're all cautious, they are also cautiously optimistic that if we do face a recession or a slight downturn, that it's going to be brief and it's going to be shallow. And so what they don't want to do is be getting rid of people today when they think they may need them by the end of the year. So a little bit of stubbornness there. And there has never been a real recession unless unemployment has reached 6%. And we are a long way away from a 6% employment, given that it was only, I believe, 3.4% is what was shown this past week. So confusing for the Fed. At this point, unless the inflation numbers start to move back up again, it's probably time for the Fed to pause on interest rates and to let the world see and themselves see, given how quickly they've raised interest rates, to determine, in fact, whether or not they've done their job.
Well, I got to tell you, I think everybody's a little worried about what's going on with this raising of the debt ceiling. I mean, Congress and the president, it's almost like they're playing Russian roulette. And it doesn't seem like the president wants to do any negotiating. Republicans want to cut future costs, and the president says we can argue over that later. But it seems to me just more kicking the can down the road, and it's got to stop.
Well, it's going to stop if they don't do something. Janet Yellen was on national TV yesterday and said that it would be catastrophic if the debt ceiling is not raised by early June, that she will no longer have the money to pay interest on bonds, perhaps to pay Social Security payments, vendors, et cetera. And the good news is that the Republicans who were accused of not having a plan have laid out a plan, have passed the plan. Whether you agree with it or whether you don't, I'm not saying it's the best plan, but they have presented a plan. The Democrats had been hoping that they would be unable to pass a unified plan, but they did a couple of weeks ago. And now it's time for everybody to sit down and to hash out what needs to be done. And the good news is the president has invited the leaders of both parties in the House and in the Senate to the White House this week to begin those discussions. Everybody says, well, we won't let it default, but the market isn't as sure as they are. All you have to do is look at the short-term Treasury bill being over about 5%. And that's telling you the market is very concerned that, in fact, they may get right to the brink and perhaps even go over it. Clearly, like everyone else, our hope is that common sense prevails. You know, there's an old expression that I just love, and it says, don't let your thinking get in the way of good common sense. Yes. And that's really what has to happen right now amongst our politicians, is they can't let their thinking get in the way of good common sense.
I totally agree. One of our callers, Sally in Lutz, what a great question for you, because I feel like you're one of the most reliable and competent financial planners out there. She wants to know, how do I find a reliable and competent financial planner?
Well, depending upon the area in which you live, and for those that are outside of our Tampa Bay area particularly, there are two excellent sources to find competent and ethical financial planners. And please appreciate full disclosure, Steve, I've been a certified financial planner since 1990. I served as the chair of the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards in 2014. I chaired the Commission on Standards when we redid those in 2018. So I'm very partial and believe that any financial planner that you work with should be a certified financial planner. And if you need to find a CFP professional, you can go to cfpboard.org website, and they have listed there everybody by zip code with a brief history on them, and will also direct you on how you can get new information. You can also go to fpa.net, that's Financial Planning Association's website, which is the member organization for CFP professionals. And so by going to cfp.org or to go to fpa.net, you should be able to find CFPs who will be both competent and ethical. And of course, if you're here in the Tampa Bay area, particularly, we have an office in Clearwater and an office in Tampa, so we hope you'll consider us as well.
Well, I got to tell you, it's I don't know why this is. I have a lot of friends of mine who invest, but they're mostly in the Texas area, and the ones, Ray, who've had the most problem are the ones who dealt with friends of the family, relatives of the family. Is that how does that come? I mean, it's always seems like it's always just, oh, I got really screwed around. I lost a lot of money, and I went with a friend in the family or a cousin.
Well, I'm sure that does happen. Hopefully, most family relationships are positive experiences and not negative, but clearly it has happened. I don't know if it's unique to the state of Texas or not. I did spend 2 years there in my career back in the late 70s. So I didn't notice it then. But, in answer to your question, again, it comes down to finding a competent and ethical financial planner. And
yes,
unfortunately, there are, as there are in other professions, there are those that are less competent and less ethical than most of the people who are out there. And, I should have said to your previous question, when we're talking about trying to find a financial planner, when you interview certified financial planners, interview at least 3, and you want to look for one who has what I refer to as a good tableside manner. Just as we refer to lawyers with a good courtroom manner, doctors with a good bedside manner, you want a financial planner to work with you who has a good tableside manner, somebody who can explain things to you to the depth that you want it explained, and to do so in words that are easy to understand. The last thing you want to do is to be working with somebody with, don't worry about it, Steve. I got it all covered. I know what's best for you. That's a sure sign that it's probably better for whoever's giving you the advice than the person who's receiving the advice.
Oh, excellent. This is from Craig in Palm Harbor. I've been listening to you for the last 6 months, and you are constantly emphasizing the need for a financial plan, which is what we were talking about. What is the big deal? I have done fine without one.
No question, Craig, that one can be successful without a plan. However, it's our belief that as anything exists in life, if you have a plan, your odds of success or better success are achieved with a plan. Think in terms of building a house. The last thing you would do is go out and build a home without a set of drawings from an architectural firm. That is, unless you want the Winchester house that's out in California, where she did exactly that. Mrs. Winchester kept building onto the house, and it's an absolute mess. You don't want a doctor to go into an operation without a plan as to how she or he is going to proceed in the operation, and to think about all of the contingencies that could occur. You don't want your attorney going into court if you find yourself in that unfortunate situation and just winging it. So people who have a plan, have a written plan, and then follow that plan have a better chance of success and a greater success than without one. So So, Craig, I'm happy for you that things have worked out for you, but I would suggest that even at this point in life, as you go forward, you're better off with a plan than without a plan.
Oh, absolutely. So true. Uh, Eric in Tampa, I'm interested in making a contribution to my university to support scholarships. I want to do good, but I also want to help myself with good tax planning. How do I get started?
So, again, we come back to again. This is a perfect reason, a great follow-up question to the previous one. The reason to have a plan, because depending upon what it is that you want to achieve and the assets that you have, it could make a difference amongst the many different vehicles that you could use for a charitable contribution. If you make contributions of cash, which all charities, Steve, prefer cash above anything else. They love that cash. Then and you have the liquidity to do so, why not? But it's not the most cost-effective way to do it. Sure, you get a tax deduction, and that tax deduction is limited to 50% of your adjusted gross income in any 1 year. But you can always carry it forward. But if you have appreciated assets, particularly very significantly appreciated assets, then you may find yourself in a position where donating that appreciated stock or that appreciated real estate will be more beneficial, because not only will you get a tax deduction on your income, but you will avoid having to pay the capital gains tax on the property itself. So you kind of get a double benefit that exists there. What I strongly suggest that happens is visit with your financial planner, visit with your attorney and CPA, tell them about what your desires are, talk to the development officer with the charity, and come up with a plan that will work. And my wife and I are big believers in donating to educational activities. With our alma mater where we met, my wife taught for 25 years, and education provides a lifetime of benefits for those receiving it. And so when you're doing good for yourself, pardon the poor English, and doing good for others, pardon the poor English once again, you are creating an opportunity that lives long past you, and I salute you for doing it.
Well, I got to tell you, this next question, Ray, is true to my heart. I was a sports agent for about 10 years, representing college athletes. Paula in Indian Rock Beach. I can't believe all the money that is going into college sports through name, image, and likeness. This is the new rule that college athletes can make money off their name now. It is ruining amateur sports, but I'm really concerned about these young men and women not being sophisticated enough to manage their money. Why aren't universities helping them? Great question.
So let me say first that I have never been a fan of name, image, and likeness. Somehow I can't help but agree that it somehow ruins the amateur nature of collegiate sports. On the other hand, as they say, I do get the fact that some of these young men and women should be compensated for the use of their name, image, and likeness. But I think that should come from the college and universities and not from the collectives. I also think that there probably should be some caps on it. It's ridiculous to see somebody who's not thrown the first pass in a college game or attempted the first tackle to be getting some of the money that they're having. And so hopefully there will be some restraints placed on this by the NC2As in various ways, particularly those young men and women that are going through the portal, leaving one school and running to another. It used to be you had to wait a year before you could, if you changed schools, before you could participate in sports in that field. Now it's instantaneous. But back to the question at hand, and that is, I am huge and am working with several universities now to come up with programs to create financial literacy classes, to provide alums who are in the financial advice business, to provide that advice to these young athletes. And they have to do it on a pro bono basis. They cannot work with the athlete and make money off of the athlete. They can only do it if they do it on a pro bono basis. And my hope would be that more universities will do that. I was delighted to find out this past week when I was at a Board of Trustees meeting for the University of Maryland, which is my alumni, that because of comments that I've made along with others, they're instituting a pilot program on financial literacy with the eventual plan that if the pilot works, that all students may be required to take this, not just the athletes, but people as they're graduating would be required to take this course to help them as they begin making money. It is a shame because many of these folks just have no idea what to do with the money. And I can assure you, Steve, you were talking about friends and relatives earlier.
Yes.
A young person who gets $1 million, they're going to find out that they had more cousins than they ever knew they had.
Exactly.
Some of the best ideas ever to loan me money so that I can do my business or invest the money for you. So hopefully universities will realize their responsibility as we go forward and are there to help them. In the meantime,
I think what's so sad, Ray, is there's people like, and this is common knowledge, Dexter Manley, who played for, at the time, the Washington Redskins. He went to Oklahoma State and came out of college and couldn't even read. Now, if he can't even read, how is he going to manage his money? And one of the things that's so sad, seeing the kind of money that these guys make and they come out of their career and they're broke. It's just sad. It's just not understanding money management.
Well, it's not only that, but appreciate the fact that the average life expectancy in the NFL is just a little over 3 years. And of course,
yes,
when you're 22, 23 years old, you make your first NFL team, you think it's going to last for 10, 15 years. And unfortunately, for the vast majority of people, that isn't what happens. And
exactly.
If they do, again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here. Oh, that's a bad thing to say after what all happened at Churchill Downs this past week. But is that they need to have a plan when they get that big contract, when they get that money, put it away. They can set themselves up for so much future in life if they do that, rather than go buy a big home, a fancy car, lots of jewelry, all the other things that they might waste money on. A little bit of that's fine. You need to reward yourself, but do it within reason.
Okay, you are so right on. Last question, Bobby in Wesley Chapel. said, I want to help my granddaughter in paying for her college education over the next few years. Nice grandfather. How much can I give her?
So there are a couple of different ways that you can do this. It sounds like the granddaughter is on her way to college very shortly.
Yes.
So you can clearly make a gift to her, which limits you to $17,000 a year if you give the money directly to her. And that would certainly go a long way. Or if you're so inclined and you really wanted to give her more without having to file a gift tax return, you could pay for her room and board and tuition and any other expenses at the school directly. And if you were going to pay for everything 100%, and let's say the tuition is and room and board is $50,000, you can make that gift directly to the college or university, and there is no gift tax involved in that type of a transaction. So if you're thinking of doing something less than the $17,000, just give her the money. And if you're thinking of doing something more than that, then pay it directly to the university. Don't give it to her and then give it to her. She give it to the university. Give it to her. Give it to the university, and she'll have the benefit.
Well, one thing bad about this show, Ray, is it goes by so fast.
It does.
First, let's give everybody your phone number.
Sure. And I want to mention that everybody's entitled to a complimentary 1-hour consultation in either our Tampa or Clearwater office. And all they have to do is give us a buzz at 727-441-9022. It's scrolling across the screen now. That's 727-441-9022. Or go to our website, provise.com.
You're the best, and we're going to see you in a couple weeks.
Yes, sir.
We're always excited about that. Have a wonderful week, Ray, and we'll see you soon.
Steve, thanks very much, and have a great week.
Thank you. That's Ray Ferrara. He's with the Provise Wealth Management Company, and he'll be back with us again in 2 weeks. We will be back with you again next Monday with more Ask the Experts. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.